Good evening, all, and welcome to the October 26th, 2020 Planning Board meeting. If we could all, as we do, stand for the pledge, please. Pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the
United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Robin. Okay, before we start, I just
Hi, Robin.
Oh, who was that?
Sorry.
All right. We got some sad news tonight. Well, good for him, bad for us. That John Savoca, a longtime member of the planning board, is going to be stepping down. I've really enjoyed our time together over the last few years. Learned a lot from him. He's going to be missed dearly. And I wish him all the best. I'm sure the others would like to chime in too.
Absolutely. I think he's been a tremendous addition to the board. And on times where we had to especially take a look at title issues and that kind of thing, he was extremely helpful, but always a sober mindset, patient with the applicants, though sometimes expressing frustration with certain entities in the town. He was always a voice, I think, of reason, and we'll miss him and his friendship that we formed over several years, a long time.
Yeah, I looked at him for a lot of advice, and boy, he gave it to me. He was really a source of information. I mean, I was a novice. He just told me everything.
Yeah, I would echo that. I think, John, your comments about his being reasonable and fair in approach, and obviously his background and expertise in certain areas was incredibly valuable. So always had a good voice.
We'll miss him.
We will. He was just a gentleman too. Okay, we're going to start with the agenda then. First, we have correspondence. Anything anybody want to discuss in the correspondence?
Nope.
All right, then we'll move on to John Kincart's favorite portion of the meeting.
My goodness gracious. Nancy did such a good job. I can't believe that last meeting was a long meeting.
Oh my God.
I did appreciate some of the comments, like on the Lowe's application, where John Tegeter didn't want the landscaping to look like it had a, quote, bad haircut, end quote. I thought that was terrific.
Anybody have
a lot about bad haircuts?
Yeah.
Anyone with any edits, comments?
It's 12 pages, Rich. I didn't get through the whole thing.
Oh, I'm sorry. Do we have Jim on tonight?
No, not yet. I did email him this afternoon. He said he had the meeting link.
Okay.
Howdy, y'all.
Good evening.
Ed Lack.
Ed.
Hello, Ed.
You do have this Jim on tonight.
Hey, how are you?
Hi, how's it going, guys? Jim Marano here.
Nice to have you back.
Glad to be back.
What were you guys doing on the track, the DeVito field the other day?
We are putting in a new flagpole for the veterans.
Nice.
That's the Eagle Scout project.
Very nice.
Yep. John, thanks for the help again with that project.
My pleasure.
There's Joan.
Hey guys, this is Carlos Pires. Was able to join tonight with you guys. Good evening.
How are you?
Good evening.
Not that this matters, but our video doesn't work. I don't know if that's fine with you guys. I mean, we're trying to.
No, we don't want video on until your item's up, if that's okay.
Oh,
Okay, that's all right.
Yeah, no, we thought it was like a tech issue on our end. Okay, cool.
Thank you.
Thanks. Hey, Jim.
How is everybody tonight?
Good, yourself?
Doing good.
Yes, fine.
Rich, minutes look good from my angle. I haven't checked every comma or period, but
We'll leave that to the professor.
So you're gonna have to call Grammy on your own, Brian.
Hey, Robin, I'm going to sign in from my computer now.
Wait.
All right, you know what? If it's all right with everybody else, and I'll take a cue from Rob. Maybe we'll finish the minutes later.
Yeah, I think, I'm all the way up to the battery storage application, aside from minor spelling and, punctuation things. That's all that I've come across. So rather than hold things up, we have a lot of people waiting to discuss the agenda items.
Yep.
I do have to recuse myself on a couple of items. Maybe I can finish up while we do that. How's that?
Sounds like a plan.
All righty.
All right, so we'll move that till later. All right, in the regular session portion of the meeting, first up, we have the Fiore minor subdivision. This is a request for a 90-day time extension. Location is Carr Court. We have Joe up. There's Joe.
Hi. Good evening, everyone.
Evening, Joe.
Good evening. So the Fiore application at this point is in the health department. However, the health department is waiting for the filing of an easement, which several months back I explained to the board that the current home has a sewer connection which runs through the adjacent property to the right, and there was never an easement in place for that. That's the way it was from the very beginning of when the subdivision was created. And we discovered that there was no easement, so the health department is requiring an easement. The easement has been drafted. It is in the hands of the attorney of the adjoining property owner. The adjoining property owner has consented to sign the easement. We're just waiting for that to be executed, then filed, and then we can complete our health department application. So until that time, we're in limbo with that.
Okay. John, any outstanding issues?
Not at this time.
Jim,
Nothing from me, Mr. Chairman.
any comments from members of the board?
No.
No.
Robin, do we have anything from the public? Again, if anybody wants to say anything, you have to instant message or I think do the wave signal to Robin. Anything, Robin? Okay, that being said, do I have a motion to approve the request for a 90-day time extension for the Fiore Minor subdivision?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the motion was first by John Kinkart and seconded by Aaron Bach. Good, Nancy?
Very good.
All right, thank you. All right, next we're gonna move on to Monjero Properties LLC. This is a request for a 1-year time extension. Location Saw Mill River Road. Joe, you're on again.
Yes, good evening. If you've driven by the property, you're aware that the property owner is still trying to market the property to get a tenant. The major hurdle for them has been the improvement of the right-of-way, the expense related to that, and it's chased away a lot of potential tenants. But they want to continue to market the property and hopefully get someone that'll fit into the approved site plan. Nothing has changed out there. Nothing has changed in our application or site plan request. So the applicant the owner is looking for an extension for 1 year to continue his pursuit.
Joe, this is an older application. Have any of the regulations changed that we would have to worry about?
No, nothing has changed from our perspective. At the time it was approved, the DEP approved it. They have since updated their approval, so that's in place. We had a DOT approval for the roadway entrance and the extension of the water main by the health department to the property. Both of those are need to be renewed, but there is expense associated with those, and not to say that they're that they would be difficult to get, or it would just be a matter of reapproval. So it's not something to be concerned with. Otherwise, we think everything should align with the original approval.
Okay. John, anything on your end?
I think we should. Joe, did you take a look at the tree law?
No, I did not, John, and that's true.
I mean, we'll just have to see. We'll just have to see if that. Yeah, we'll just see if that has any applicability.
Okay.
Now, but I have no objection to the extension being granted at this time.
Okay, so we're gonna have to relook at the tree law, though.
I would suggest that you extend the approval, and if you want to make note or condition on that prior to your final signing of the map, we've addressed the tree law.
Yeah, that's fine. That's
okay. Jim, anything wrong with that?
No objection.
Anything from the members of the board?
I think that's an excellent resolution to any concerns that might be coming up in that regard.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Okay. Anything from the public? No. Okay, then. in reference to the Monjaro Properties LLC request for a 1-year time extension. Do I have a motion?
La Scala, motion.
Second.
King Card second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay. Next on the list, we have the Roberto Front Street application. This is also a request for a 1-year time extension. Location is Front Street. Joe, you're on again.
Thank you. Robin, can I have the screen? So this application, as you're all familiar with, was 2 commercial buildings on Front Street with a mix of residential on the larger of the 2 buildings. There's 5 apartments on the second floor for that building. And as part of the approval, there's some extensive improvements, creating a turnaround area, as well as providing future access to the property to the south. So these improvements, this little plaza area, and the extension to the property to the south will require a licensing agreement from the town, and that is currently in the hands of the attorney. The language for the licensing agreement was prepared by the applicant and submitted to the town board. And it's, as I said, currently in the town attorney's hands for final review, and hopefully a vote soon on getting that approved.
Okay. John, anything on your end?
No, I have nothing.
Jim, any legal issues with this? Including
Nothing on my end, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Members of the board, any comments, concerns?
No. Nope. None for me.
Anybody from the public? Comments, concerns? Anything, Robin? Quiet. Okay. All right, then. In reference to the Roberta Front Street application and the request for the 1-year time extension, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion. Second.
Second.
All right, so the motion was by Aaron Bach, and I think the second was by La Scala. Okay, next we're going to move on to the Hilltop Hanover Farm subdivision.
We going to vote?
Yeah, you got to call for a vote.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't do okay. We had a motion. All is in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I apologize. Jumping ahead of myself here. Okay, next we have the Hilltop Hanover Farm subdivision. This is lot 10. This is a decision statement for a site plan and stormwater permit. Locations 1220 White Horse Lane. And I will mention we had a very nice site visit that was also joined by members of the Conservation Board. Thank you very much. Joe, you're on.
Okay.
I'd like to go on record as recusing myself on this application.
Thank you, John.
So as you said, we had a site walk a few weeks ago. After that site walk, the property owner and I discussed the house location and the retaining walls that were going to be necessary, as well as the amount of fill that was required to be brought into the site. So what we did was push the house about 25 feet to the north. The driveway entry point is still the same. This eliminated the need for the retaining walls and it reduced the amount of fill required by about 2,500 cubic yards. In red here, the outline in red shows the house location as per the subdivision approval. So as you can see, we've pushed it now in that direction and directly behind it. So with that, we've needed to make some adjustments. For example,
Joe,
yeah.
You're not
you need to share your screen again.
Oh, I need to do it again. Okay. Okay. Let me start all over again. So, as I said, we pushed the house to the north about 25 feet. We lowered the house 2.5 feet, and we were able to reduce the amount of fill required to be imported to 2,500 cubic yards to 5,100 cubic yards. So this is the outline of the original house location. As for per the subdivision approval, we moved the house almost directly behind it, but a little further back off the road. With that, the retaining walls are all gone. We still have a fill slope here, but it's not as high and it's not as extensive as far as the amount of fill that's required. We made an adjustment with our drainage, taking our level spreader and filter strip and relocating it to accommodate that. So we pushed that back a little bit. Otherwise, everything else is the same. The septic area, as we've discussed on several occasions, is in the exact location and meets the exact requirements of the original approval, subdivision approval. So there's no change there. We are currently waiting for DEP approval on our amended SWIP application. We are also in the midst of addressing the mitigation work that was discussed and agreed to between the town engineer and the DEP for the area that was disturbed, the buffer area that was disturbed and part of the conservation easement. So that work is underway, or it may even be complete at this point. So with that, we are hoping that the board can issue a resolution of approval on this site plan, and we can move forward. Of course, that will be subject to our DEP SWIP approval.
Thank you, Joe. John, after our site visit and follow-ups, any issues?
No, I think this looks a lot better and a lot less impactful. So grateful to the applicant and Jorina on this. So I think it looks a lot better.
An absolutely beautiful, breathtaking piece of property. It's going to be a beautiful home. Jim, anything on your end?
No issues on our end.
Members of the board, how does everybody like the new plan?
Sounds good to me with less fill coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's better than the old one.
Yep.
Hey, Joe, quick question. How did you reduce the height by 2.5 feet? Did you go below grade further, or what actually took place there?
Oh, we actually just, we're lowering this whole area.
The whole structure came down, basically.
Yeah, we're actually bringing the whole area down.
It's a good plan.
Okay. Anybody?
Joe.
Oops, sorry, John.
One other thing, Joe, what you're waiting for, something on DEP?
Yeah, they have to approve the amended SWIP. So,
okay.
You know, because the house got relocated and the driveway got relocated, they're entitled to do an amendment to the SWIP. So that's where we're at now. I think we're close to having that. I believe within a month we should have that. It should be pretty straightforward.
Right. So we should have language here that makes this approval subject to that approval, right?
That's right.
Yes, I agree, John.
Okay, anybody from the
and-
public?
And I also believe they put that in writing to the planning board anyway. So
Great.
they've already asked for, you know, if you're going to approve it, to make it conditional on their permit.
Thank you.
Good. Anybody from the public? Any comments, concerns, questions? Nothing? Good. Okay, John, procedurally, on page 35, we have the resolution. Joe, can you stop sharing your screen, please?
Yes.
Sorry, I just can't. I need two screens here. So we have the resolution. Joe, you've seen this?
Yes, I did, but I didn't get a chance to take a good look at it. Just take a quick look.
Are we missing a page of that? How many pages long is that resolution?
It's 2 of 2.
Just 2?
Okay.
Oh, 3. I'm sorry. 3.
Missing page 3, I think.
Damn phone.
I have a page 3.
I'm looking at page 3.
You want to? Does somebody want to share their screen so Aaron can look at page 3?
Wish I knew how to do that.
Would you like me to do it?
Yeah.
Who are we talking? Who's talking?
Joe.
Oh, okay.
So I'll start from the beginning, Aaron, and I'll just go at you just tell me when you want.
I looked at the first 2 pages I got. I didn't see the last one.
Okay. So here's the top of this 3rd page.
Okay. Keep going. Okay.
That's all she wrote.
And that's it? Okay.
So that second or the first, be it further resolved there, either in that or after that, you can add subject to the New York City DEP, approving the amended stormwater permit.
SWIP. Okay. Procedurally, anything else other than this?
No.
Joe, can you stop sharing your screen again, please?
Yep.
Sorry. Okay, so then in reference to the, and Robin, nothing from the public, right?
No.
Okay. In reference to the resolution approving a site plan, wetland and stormwater management permit for the Hilltop Hanover Farm Subdivision Lot 10. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second that.
Kerrigan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And 1, John Kinkard abstained. So that Nancy first was by La Scala, second by Rob. All in favor. Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Good luck, Carlos.
Thank you so much.
Good luck with the home. Beautiful piece of property.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good luck.
You guys have
changes.
Nice beard. Nice haircut.
Thank you, John. I did it myself, the haircut.
Oh, there's nice.
All right. I can get out, right?
Yep, you're gone. You're done.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night, all right?
You will.
Thank you.
Okay. Next on the agenda, we have Riccadella Estates, formerly known as Lubowski Site Plan. This is a decision statement and an amended stormwater permit. Location is 702 Sawmill River Road. Joe's on.
Okay, since our last, I'm going to share it, Robin.
Mhm.
Since our last meeting, we've addressed the town engineer's comments. I think based on the memo he issued today, we've substantially addressed everything that he had asked for. And at this point, we'd like to request that the planning board approve this amended site plan.
Joe, can you just do a quick synopsis on the changes? It's related to the stormwater, right?
Yeah, I mean, really the changes, they weren't, do you mean since the previous site plan or what we've done since the last meeting?
No, the previous site plan.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. So, let me just get us to the right sheet here.
I mean, the biggest change was you couldn't tie into that stormwater system, so you had to create the retention system on site, correct?
That's correct. So, previously it was anticipated that there was a stormwater system in Sawmill River Road, and the DOT, after checking their records, determined that there was none, even though there is a pipe to the west of the property. It's a pipe that goes to nowhere. So, since we couldn't do that and attenuate our flows with an overflow, what we did was increase our stormwater system to hold the full volume of water and release it at a very slight rate. So, for example, in the 100-year storm, we're releasing it at 0.3 CFS. In the 1-year storm, it's less than a 0.1 CFS, which is, not really noticeable at all. And then what we're doing is we're taking the discharge and going right to the rain garden and let it dissipate in the rain garden. So that's really the change. Otherwise, there's been no changes to the buildings or the use of the buildings. The septic system is exactly the same. Our entry point and driveway are exactly the same. So it's really centered around increasing the amount of detention on site and not being able to have a physical pipe discharge off site.
Great, thanks.
Yep.
I actually like this plan better than the last one.
Joe, can you do me a favor?
Yes.
All right, just I gotta pull up the.
You want me to unshare?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Or stop share, whatever the right.
Yes. All right, John, anything else on your end?
Nothing here, no.
Jim?
Nothing from us.
All right. Members of the board?
Nothing.
Good.
Anybody from the public? We'll give you a minute.
No comments.
All right, we're good?
Good.
All right, so in reference to the resolution on page 45 of the book, or the Dropbox, whatever you call it these days, we have a resolution approving an amended site plan and special use permit for Ricardella Estates LLC. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
First by Kinkart, second by La Scala. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay, see you later in the meeting.
Okay. Okay, so next we have the Par 3 Golf Course. This is an adjourned public hearing. Location is 795 Route 6. And I know we're going to have speakers from the public on this one. So, do we have a motion to reopen the adjourned public hearing? If we need to do such.
Second.
That was Bach 1, Kinkard 2nd. Okay. James, you out there? There he is.
There he is.
Good evening, guys. How you doing?
How are you?
How'd you do with those notices?
We got them all out, and thank you to Robin and her help. Couldn't have done it without her. Here are the notices here from the post office. Robin has a scanned copy of this as well.
Good.
Over 30 notices are sent out.
Okay, so you're on. I did see a bunch of follow-up letters, town engineer, the tree advisory commission, the county. You want to update us on where we are with everything?
Yeah, it's similar to where we were last month. The SWIB had been done. The NOI has been put in. They're starting to work on the tee boxes and greens. And that's still where they're at today.
All right. So, John, I saw some things in the folder. Anything we need to talk about further?
No, I think you're just going to take the public comment tonight for the most part.
Yes.
Yeah, and once we move past that, then any technical things that we need to finals will discuss with you.
Will it be similar to a town board meeting where each person talks and then we address afterwards, or we address them one at a time?
How would you like to handle it? One at a time?
It's up to y'all. It's your meeting, so
probably easier if we get the question that's addressed and then we move on. If that's right.
That's fine with me.
Yeah, Jim, we only do that for courtesy of the floor to keep.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't have to. We don't have to address these immediately.
No, but if you feel there's something you want to
clarify,
by all means.
Great.
All right, so Robin, we'll go out to the public.
Okay, I'm going to start with Susan Siegel.
You there, Susan?
Hi, Susan. How you doing?
I see she looks like she's muted.
She'll get there.
And again, Jim, you don't have to defend anything. You just hear the comments. If you feel there's something you would like to address and clarify, feel free to do so.
Great.
Sometimes you're better off not addressing them.
Right.
Really, you just make more controversy.
Right.
Okay.
There
Hi,
you're on.
Susan.
There you
Oh,
are.
okay. Thank you. Good evening to all.
Good
I'd
evening.
like to read some prepared comments. Okay. But before I do, I'd like to make it clear, very clear, that I totally support the redevelopment and reopening of the Par 3 golf course. My only concern is the approval process and my belief that all applicants, regardless of who they are or what their plans are, should be required to follow the same rules and procedures. All applicants should be treated the same. I'd also like to ask the planning board to extend me the courtesy of letting me complete my comments without interruption, something that I was twice denied at previous hearings on another application. When the planning board opened this hearing in September, I was registered to speak, but unfortunately there was some confusion and I was not able to speak. Instead, I was belatedly advised to address tonight's adjourned hearing. I say unfortunately because the questions I was planning to ask in September have now become mute, as the work on the golf course has been going on since the September hearing, actually before the hearing even started. And if the applicant is able to follow the schedule that he laid out in September, the work is almost finished, in effect making the site plan review and eventual approval somewhat of a rubber stamp of what has already been done on the site. I have a great deal of respect for this board and for the time and effort that each of you puts into guiding the future development of our town. You're all volunteers, and for that, I thank you sincerely. On many occasions, I think you know that I have defended this board against unwarranted criticisms that you're business unfriendly. If approvals sometimes take a while because you're doing your job, it's because you're doing your job, which is first and foremost to protect the interests of the town and its residents. I've also seen you work very cooperatively with applicants who are anxious to get their projects approved so that they could begin construction before the weather changed or there was some other problem standing in their way. And in most of these cases, the applicant promptly made the site plan changes you requested, and you were able to approve their projects, often at the very next board meeting. But it was and always is the applicant's responsibility to get their site plan with the changes to the board. And applicants knew that they couldn't begin construction until after the board voted to approve their plans, which is why I'm disappointed with how the board has dealt with this application. More specifically, the superficial review for this application, especially its environmental impacts, and for letting the applicant proceed to modify the site before you've completed your review. Here are some examples. Has there been a discussion of a town wetlands permit, especially how the plan will impact the stream? Because I believe some of the stormwater runoff will be directed into the stream. Or has there been a tree permit application and a mitigation plan, not only for the trees that the plan says will be removed, but for the roughly 90 trees that were illegally removed?
70.
Both wetlands and tree laws apply to all land within Yorktown, including town-owned land. And speaking of permits, does the amount of total site disturbance, not just the disturbance to the T's and greens, meet the threshold for requiring a town stormwater permit? Last month, the applicant said that less than 1/4 of an acre would be disturbed, but the supplemental SWIP says that 42,486 square feet will be disturbed for T's and greens. That's virtually 1 acre, and that the limit of disturbance would not exceed 4.4 acres. And I seem to recall discussions years ago that the site was a floodplain. In fact, I was told that the golf course, when it was created in the 1960s, it was actually designed to flood. Has anyone checked the current FEMA maps to see if a floodplain permit is required? Has either the board or ABACA reviewed a real landscape plan? And by real, I mean the names and species, the species of the trees, shrubs that are going to be planted and their exact locations. Parking is another issue that your board has always looked at carefully. As presented last month, the applicant is counting on using the parking spaces in the state right-of-way that runs parallel to Route 6. But has anyone studied the extent to which those spaces are already being utilized, especially on weekdays by commuters? The supplemental SWIP calls for a forest conservation plan and a conservation easement. Has the board discussed those documents? Also, does the board want to consider setting any conditions to its approval governing the use of pesticides, herbicides, and fertilizers, especially as the Shrub Oak Brook is part of the Peekskill Hollow Brook watershed? The supplemental SWIP correctly, but very conveniently, states that the golf course is not in the Croton watershed. Well, we all know that, but it fails to state that it's in the Peekskill Hollow watershed. In conclusion, as the golf course can't open until possibly next spring, I would hope that the planning board would hold off granting site approval until some of these issues that I have raised have been looked in more thoroughly with the same level of care that you have given to many much, much smaller applications. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Very well written, thought out comments. I will just add one thing in respect to the work that's going on. The planning board, although we might from time to time, and we will later tonight, mention about compliance, we have no enforcement, right? We're not the ones that go shut jobs down or do any enforcement. That is left up to various departments through the town staff.
Rich, I realize that, and I know that the town was cited with a violation from DEC, and they submitted the SWIP and their SWIP documents. They got the general approval for a SWIP. I don't know why they didn't get a state wetlands permit, but that's a moot point at this time. But so they lifted the stop work order, but that was for the DEC violation. And I think the planning board could have, should have said something at the last meeting when you opened the hearing that, hey, guys, you really shouldn't be doing all that work until we've approved the site plan, because they said that they were going to complete the work roughly by Thanksgiving, which is really coming up very soon. So as I said, your approval becomes a moot point, and I don't think you've looked at many of the issues. And again, I support the project. I think it's a valuable project, but I think it should be held to the same standards and rules and regulations that you do for other things. The amount of time you spent on the one lot subdivision for the Hilltop Hanover, the parking issues you reviewed for the I think it was K&B, the store in Mohegan, and you analyzed the availability of the existing parking spaces and how much the different tenants were using. Those cares for much smaller projects. But here, it just seems you're just not looking at anything.
I do appreciate your comments, and I do apologize at the last meeting that you were cut off, weren't allowed to speak. It was not anything done.
It's inadvertent. I'll accept that. All right.
Yeah, no,
but the point is, my comments now become mute, because if you're not discussing this, it should get a town wetlands permit. It should get a tree permit. There should be a mitigation plan. The landscape plan just has a circle and says new trees. Come on, you don't accept that for anything.
Susan,
you wouldn't accept that.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but the application is moving. It's in fluid right now. It's being worked on. So we're going to take all your comments, and each one of them will be looked at, as we always do.
That's all I'm asking, is to give it the same level of review that you give to every other application. And I want to see this project succeed.
Susan, I appreciate it. And
yep. Sorry. Please.
No, I appreciate all your efforts, Susan, and we're certainly trying to get this project on the right start and pushing forward properly. And that's why we're here in the planning board right now and going through the planning board process. So, I'd love to answer some of your questions. When we talked to the DEC, they said the joint water wetland permit was not necessary just to do the NOI and the SWIP. So we've done that. We're staying in constant communication with DEC to go through the appropriate channels to do this project properly.
John, could you possibly explain why DEC would not require a wetlands permit for a state wetland and a critical one that's part of a watershed? That one kind of floored me. I don't know why they got the stormwater general permit and not a state wetlands permit, but it still needs a town wetlands permit. You've got a stream there. You're dumping stormwater into the stream. Okay, what?
Susan, you would give a permit to yourself if you're the town?
Absolutely. You read the wetlands law, and it says all lands, the town needs a wetlands permit. Yes.
Well, I just want to add in that this entire project is being looked at. I don't know why. This is the only comment I have on everything that Susan has said. I don't know why it appears as though things are not being looked at. I think this entire project is being looked at. We spent plenty of time on the parking, on the building, what was being added to the building, how the building was working. We had a discussion, as Susan related, about the 2 or 3 missing parking spaces that that this may be low on, whether or not it could be taken up on the commuter lot. I want to remind everyone, this is a golf course that has been here for about 4 decades or more. I personally learned here. This is my first place I golfed a long time ago. I'm still not any better than that first day, probably, but nevertheless. So my point is that everything, despite this fact, everything is still being looked at with care. DEC is not letting anything go by, whether or not whatever paperwork they're requiring. They did issue a stop work order and require remediation, which is being done. So I think all of this is being looked at closely by all departments in the town, and this board. The town board also had a hand in concern with this project. So regardless of whether or not we have everything finished yet, we will finish it properly.
Right.
That's all I'm asking is give it the level of review, and certainly deal with the trees that were illegally cut down. I know it was said at the last meeting that was done by some previous engineer or consultant, and the current one didn't know what would happen before and wasn't responsible for that. But that's still the responsibility of the applicant for what was done on the site.
Yep, and we will certainly do the appropriate paperwork if we do cut down any other trees.
Supplemental SWIP is confusing because it has details of what is going to be done at each hole, and it says and removal of trees, and then there's something else that says and no trees will be removed. Just somewhat confusing.
There's a number of dead trees that need to be removed, so that's going to be submitted as permit submitted for those dead trees.
But possibly, John, could you read into the record the memo from the tree commission? I would like to hear that. And also, I'd like to know what the county had to say about the proposal, which I think they would support because it's a good proposal. The proposal in general is good. And I can't say it often enough. I don't want to, I'm sounding critical, but I want this project to get approved and succeed, but done correctly.
And done correctly.
I'm sorry, I lost there it is. So I think all those are part of the record. I don't know that we need every one of those read into, but Susan, I can assure you, speaking on behalf of the board and the public that's watching, a lot goes into these applications. And I know sometimes maybe it seems like things are getting glossed over. I could assure you they're not. Some of these guys are brand new to this, and now they're picking up the mantle and trying to take it forward. As John Tegeter said, this is a pre-existing use that sounds like it's been there. I don't know, it was there 40 years, John, but
same footprint.
It's been there a minute.
The same footprint.
Might be over 40 years, to be honest.
Over.
In the 60s.
Well, like 50.
So this is going to be a revamping of the area. There are memos that are in there that are part of the record, and they're available to anybody. I'd first like to see if there's anybody else from the public that would like to speak. And I am getting text from Thomas, by the way.
Textino?
Yeah. Yes, he's watching.
Okay. You can never leave Yorktown.
Nope. Yeah. Anything else, Robin? I can't hear you.
Robin, you're on mute.
If anyone needs to speak, they need to either raise their hand or dial *9 on their phone.
As Robin has in her box there.
I did have a couple questions. People called in to my office. One asked if there's going to be stadium-style lights on the course. No, there's no plans for those types of lights at this moment.
Thank you.
Then another gentleman asked if music was going to be playing past 10 o'clock, and I believe the town ordinance does not allow for that. So, nor do I think the vendor is going to have music that late.
Okay.
For the record.
Any other questions?
I think
John?
that pertains to outside music, does not?
Correct. Outdoor music. He was asking about if there'd be allowed bands after 10 o'clock, and I told him, the town doesn't allow that.
Anyone, Robin?
No.
John Tegeter, anything else on your end?
No, we're gonna, from this point forward, we'll now move to get everything in order so that when you move to whatever your decision is, you have everything that we need for this application. And we can discuss, we'll go through some of the last technical items that are left and get closure on those as well. So.
All right, and I'm sure all the town departments will work hand in hand in getting this done. so that the project is very successful. Jim, anything on your end?
Nothing on.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, wrong Jim.
That's all right. Sorry, Jim.
Okay,
We're good, Jim?
we're good.
All right. Jim M., you got anything you want to add?
Yeah, just looking forward to getting this project rolling and getting on the greens at some point in the next few months. It's
Gotta
been,
get out
been
of
a,
the rough first.
yeah,
Gotta get out of the rough first.
but it's been a long road, but we're finally starting to make some steam here. So it's very exciting.
Right. Any members of the board have any issues, comments?
Yes, I do. I listened
Hi, Aaron.
carefully to what Susan was talking about, and I've reviewed the record in this matter. And I share her concerns about the level of environmental reviews that we may have taken and that we might still need to take. I don't see any feedback from the Conservation Board on this application. And I don't see any response by the applicant to the memo from the Tree Commission, which goes back to the removal of a number of trees that were just done arbitrarily by them.
When was this memo sent, Aaron?
I said there's a Tree Commission memo which was not responded to.
When was it sent?
I'm sorry?
When was it sent?
It was just resent to you last month.
It originated in 2018.
And they resubmitted it recently.
They resubmitted it in September.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. I'll have to double check my records.
Okay. I am concerned about the safety of the stream that flows through this site. And I want to make sure that when this project is complete, all measures that we can put in place to protect it are done. But I don't see anything indicative in the record that would support, that kind of activity. So I want to make sure that we consider that as an environmental impact and make sure that those impacts are reduced and taken care of. So I think there's still some open issues which I think we should review before we close this out.
You're saying before we close the hearing?
Well, before we complete this application.
Yeah, we have, John, in reference to the Conservation Board, John Tegeter, was there something that went astray or?
No, I don't think so. You have to remember that this project began obvious to the Tree Conservation's memo of September 13th, 2018, which they just put in. It started with the town board. So this project has been around and being reviewed by the town and all its interested agencies for a number of years before it got to you. So we can resubmit if the Conservation Board has not updated anything that they've looked at before, or in fact, if any other agency has not sent to them, unbeknownst to us, we'll be happy to include them. There's nothing that was missed, really. We are in this situation, since it's a town-owned property, we happen to be the last stop here. And that's just how this application has gone, largely because it's been a project that the town, on town-owned property, and sponsored in some manner by the town. Certainly is a project that has a license agreement with a third party, but nevertheless, it is the town project. So that's why the process has been a little unconventional and has taken these number of years with different times of input from around the town. So, but again, happy to send it to anybody that is interested.
Okay. Aaron, I'm sorry we cut you off midstream there.
Hey, Rich, can I say something?
Hello, fellas.
Hello,
Hi,
Rich.
Phyllis.
Hey, Jim. So as co-chair of the Conservation Board, I do not recall seeing this in the past couple of years, certainly nothing recent. So I think it would be advantageous for us to weigh in on the environmental impacts at some point.
Okay, thank you.
I think we have the benefit of timing on this just because of where we are in the season. that we can make sure we do a complete look. I don't want to oppose, obstruct the project. I just want to make sure when it's done right, and that we as a board have done our due diligence to examine all of the potential impacts of a good project.
Agreed. Jim?
Yes.
So I know you taking this on late in the game. This probably was started sometime with Gray, I would imagine.
Yeah, correct.
All right. So I do agree with Aaron. If the conservation board, John hasn't seen it, there's a way to get it to them. And I think time is on our side here as we work through some of these technical reviews.
Well, and going not only the reviews, but also the future plans for remediation. If the record's going to show that when this came to us, which, as John Tegeter pointed out, we were not the first stop on the train. It came to us finally after some of us were sharing concerns over the trees being taken down. Obviously, Aaron, you probably drove past it every day, as I did. My office is right across the street, and it looked like a logging operation over there with stacks of trees piled up. And I expressed my concerns at that time. And Jim Martirano, that was prior to you taking the bull by the horns, I think, where it was passed on to you to take over and try and get control of this thing. So, yes, it was a golf course. Yes, some of the trees were dead that were taken down, depending on who you spoke to at the time. Quantifying how many of them were dead was something that kind of fell through the cracks, I think. But I know you came in, Jim Martirano, after certain things were done, and you've been, I think, very diligent in trying to get a hold of the operation and move it forward, but move it forward in the proper way. So I commend you on that, but I sincerely applaud the concerns over everything that goes on there. It's a sensitive site. This is a relatively low impact once it is cleaned up and underway, I believe. It's almost passive recreation to some extent, but we do need to be concerned about the stream as well as the trees that have gone missing. So we're looking forward to a completed site plan and planting and remediation, et cetera, and so forth. And I do believe the record shows from when it, probably the first meeting that it came to us, and I discussed my concerns over what was going on. So this is not something that is being carelessly treated or rammed through the approval process for anybody's benefit, even the citizens of the town. So thank you for taking control of it. Susan, thank you for your comments. If you're still with us, and Aaron, your concerns, but also Rich and John speaking to the fact that we are not, looking at anything haphazardly. We're as is always the case, oftentimes public hearings are kind of at the beginning of the application process, and we need the public to see what's going on. We certainly have plenty of time, and there was a lot of work ahead of us, as there always is, once we close the public hearing. So,
thank you, John, for the kind words. I appreciate it. I've certainly been putting a lot of work into this project, and if we're not doing it the right way, we're not doing it at all. So that's what I believe, and that's what we're going to do going forward.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you. Well said. Well said, John.
Thank you.
All right, Robin, do we see anybody else from the public? No. Hey, anything else from the board?
Should I be touching base with Phyllis?
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Jim.
Should I be touching base with the conservation board offline?
I would run through John. Everything should run through John's office. John or Robin.
All right, John. Robin, we'll talk tomorrow on this, and we'll take that next step.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Anything else from the board? Jim?
Nothing from me.
John, good on your end?
We're good.
All right, then. Do I have a motion to close the adjourned public hearing for the par 3 golf course?
Motion.
Second.
It was motioned by LaScala, second by King Cart. All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. I look forward to working through this application. Jim, thank you very much for everything you're doing for the town.
No, my pleasure.
Yeah, you're doing a hell of a job.
Thank you all for your time tonight.
Okay, have a good night.
Well,
Thank you, board.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night,
Good night,
Joe.
everybody.
thank you, Susan, for your
Thanks,
comment.
John.
Good night, Joe.
Good night, John boy. Sounds like the Waltons over here.
It is. It is. Good night, everybody.
Good night. All right, next on the agenda, we have Taco Bell. This is a Taco Bell in Mohegan Lake. This is a public informational hearing. Location 3571 Mohegan Avenue. Do I have a motion to open the public informational hearing?
So moved.
Second.
It was motioned by Kinkart, second by Bach. All is in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good evening, members of the board. Hope everybody's doing well. Just going to share my screen. For the record, my name is Paul Dumont. I'm a senior designer with JMC. We're the civil engineers on the project. I am before you tonight on behalf of Keystone Mohegan Lake, LLC, with regard to the Taco Bell restaurant that's proposed at 3571 Mohegan Avenue. Just to orient everybody, here's an aerial map. North is down on this plan. Route 6, East Main Street, is shown here. Here's Mohegan Avenue, Lakeland Street, and Lake Mohegan is shown on the plan as well. Before I dive too much into the proposed site plan on this lot, I just want to take a step back and discuss history a little bit. Our firm had originally worked on this property in about 2007. We worked with the property owners to pursue a 4-lot subdivision of the property. The overall property was about 3.5 acres in size. And in about 2008, the subdivision was approved. Again, I just want to touch on each lot. Lot number 1, which is the current lot in question, was approved as a 4,000 square foot drive-through bank use. Lot 2 was approved as a 4,000 square foot credit union. Lot 3 was the learning experience, a daycare building. And Lot 4, it was essentially a conservation space and was given to the municipality at that time. In about 2009, construction was completed. There were commitments in place for 2 of the lots, being, I'm sure most of you are familiar, the 2 lots were the credit union and the learning experience building. So those lots were fully constructed and those buildings built and occupied. The lot number 1, which is shown here, this lot, the parking facilities were installed. The lot was cleared, it was graded. All of the stormwater management facilities and utility stubs were installed. The only thing that was not completed was the building pad construction, as the owner of the property did not have a bank to go in there. The property remains undeveloped for a number of years. In about 2018, the owner of the property consulted with our firm again to rezone the property from an office zone to the C2 commercial district. He was having trouble marketing the property and finding uses for the property. So in 2018, the property owners petitioned the town board to rezone the property again to the C2 district, which permits a variety of retail and restaurant uses. And at that time, our firm presented the town board with a couple of alternative plans. One was a approximate 7,000 square foot retail building, which is not shown here. The other alternative that was presented to the town board was a 2,000 square foot fast food restaurant use with a drive-through. And in about that time, the town board approved the rezoning of the property to the C2 district.
She's in.
Oh, I'm sorry. And again, just want to note that our firm did look at a number of impacts at that time with the rezoning. We did look at traffic. I'll be going into detail on that in a bit, but I just wanted to note that. So with that said, we are now before your board with a formal site plan application for the undeveloped lot. We are proposing a approximate 2,000 square foot Taco Bell fast food restaurant with a drive-through, and associated site improvements are proposed, consisting of a drive-through lane and a menu board and appurtenances, etc. Additional parking facilities, site lighting, in addition to site landscaping. And the site plan as proposed is zoning compliant. It meets the parking requirement, it meets the setbacks, etc. And since we were before your board last, we have worked at length with the Conservation Board and the ABACA with regard to the landscaping and the architecture and the lighting. Some changes that were made since we were last before you. We have beefed up the landscaping plan. We're proposing more landscaping than was previously proposed. We worked with the Conservation Board to ensure that we were proposing all native species to the satisfaction of their board. In addition, we incorporated some screening plantings between the two properties, the property to our side here, which is the church property. In addition, we worked with the ABACA to soften this elevation of the building, which I believe is the southern elevation. That was something that we had discussed at the last meeting. And we also worked on the lighting and worked with the ABACA to propose and find a light fixture which matches the existing light fixtures on the property. So at this time, I'm pleased to report that the ABACA and the Conservation Board are satisfied with the application, and their comments have been satisfied. Before I turn it over to the public, we received some written comments from some members of the public, and just wanted to address one item in particular, which is traffic on this property. We understand that several residents have some concerns about the traffic impacts, and rightly so. So I'd just like to touch on that with the board's permission. That's okay.
By all means.
So in 2007, as part of the original site plan application, our firm prepared a traffic study, and I'm just going to pull up a figure here. Okay. So our firm prepared a traffic study in 2007 to study the impacts of the original subdivision and all the different aspects of that on on Route 6 and the adjacent roadways. We studied these 4 intersections, and what we found at that time was that the existing roadway was strained, and I'm sure everybody's aware of the conditions here. The existing roadway was strained, and as a result of the subdivision approval and the 3 uses that were approved, we worked at length with the town and the New York State DOT to propose improvements to the roadways here, which would mitigate the impacts of that those approved uses. Just want to briefly touch on some of those improvements that were performed in 2007. So all the improvements that were done at this intersection, which is the intersection of Mohegan Avenue and Route 6. Some of the items that were done, the roadway was widened and a dedicated right turn lane was accommodated here. The signal, in addition, the Mohegan Avenue approach was previously offset from the intersection, meaning that this approach, the through approach, was previously located in about this area and was offset. And that contributes a lot of times to delayed operations at an intersection. So that was remedied, and that offset of the throughs was aligned with the intersection. In addition, the traffic signal was completely rebuilt and retimed in coordination with the New York State DOT. One thing that was done in particular that was a great improvement to the roadway was that the Lakeland Street and Mohegan Avenue phases within the signal were split so that Mohegan Avenue and Lakeland Street get their green times independently, and that's called split phasing. That was one thing that was done to improve the intersection operations. So with that said, in 2007, all of the mitigation measures and significant improvements were installed by the applicant to mitigate the impacts of the 4-lot subdivision in its entirety on the traffic impacts to Route 6. In 2018, when the property owner pursued the rezoning from the town board, our firm conducted a further traffic study. We conducted all new counts. We coordinated to consider any future developments that may be applicable. And what we studied at that time was the levels of service on the roadway when comparing the existing condition to the approved site plan, which was the bank site plan on this lot. And then we took those levels of service and compared them to a retail alternative and a fast food alternative. And what we found, and in that analysis, we looked at all the different trip generations for all the different alternatives and applied them to the roadway. And what we found and what was submitted on the record at that time was that the levels of service given the approved bank use, the alternative retail use, and the alternative fast food use, if you look at the levels of service, there was no change or greater impact with one use to the other. And I won't go too much into the traffic study that was submitted in 2018. And I understand that this is a lot of information, but I'd like to point out in the traffic study, there was 4 major columns that were analyzed during all the peak hours. We analyzed the 2018 existing condition, and then we looked at a 2021 build year with the approved bank, a 2021 build year with the retail alternative, and a 2021 build year with a fast food alternative. And again, what we found was that the levels of service, if you considered the bank use compared to the retail use compared to the fast food use, the levels of service did not change, and the delays did not significantly change. And again, this traffic study was reviewed by the town engineer and was originally reviewed by the New York State DOT as well. So that's really all I would like to say about traffic. And at this time, if any members of the public have any particular questions for me, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay, again, if anybody wants to speak, you have to click your raise hand button or respond to dial 9 to Robin. I know there was that people wanted to speak. Don't want to have another error where we miss anybody, so we're going to give you some time.
I have someone on the phone that would like to speak. Please just state your name for the record.
Hello?
Hello?
There?
Yes.
Yeah, what's your name, just for the record?
My name is Thomas Maietto. I'm a resident in Mohegan Lake. I've been here for 20 years.
Well, welcome.
And thank you. I would like to thank the board ladies and gentlemen, for allowing us to speak on our behalf of the residents. And I got to tell you, I'm very disappointed in the town board's decision to consider this project. You know, Mohegan Lake is not a very big town. If you go from the start of Mohegan Lake on 6 to the Cortland Town Center, which is less than 1 mile long, there are approximately 23 restaurants in the neighborhood. There are 6 pizzerias, 4 Chinese restaurants, 2 steakhouses, 4 fast food restaurant chains, McDonald's, Five Guys, Panera, etc. 2 Italian restaurants, 2 diners, Mohegan Lake Diner and IHOP, 3 Tex-Mex restaurants, Chipotle, Moe's, and Haciendas. These are 23 restaurants in a 1 mile distance. How many more restaurants do we need in the neighborhood? How many more Tex-Mex restaurants do we need? Not only that, but it's shameful to even consider this project when so many of our restaurants already are struggling, especially with COVID. There's no reason. We have a hard enough time to support these restaurants as it is, and you're considering another restaurant. It's a disgrace. It's disappointing. It's wrong. On the other hand, with regards to the traffic, I don't know where this gentleman gets his data from, some company that doesn't even live here. But I can tell you, by living here and traveling these streets, that traffic report couldn't be more wrong. If you sit at the light on Mohegan Avenue on some Saturdays, it'll take you 1/2 hour to 45 minutes to go to the Cortland Town Center. So I don't want to hear about traffic. You could do all the studies you want. It doesn't jive. It'll be a tragedy to have this restaurant built in that location. So in closing, I really hope that the board considers this, considers the people, the residents, and not just the tax dollars that they think this restaurant's going to provide the town, because it ain't worth it. And think of those restaurants that we need to support in our town. It's not right to them. And I really think that they should be here as well. I bet you if you listen to every one of those owners and their hardships, you wouldn't even consider this property. It's a shame that you're considering it. It shouldn't have even been rezoned to the C2. I don't know how that got passed. How did that get passed without public, because I never heard of that. That's a disgrace.
Well, that goes to the
So
town.
anyway, I want to thank the board for allowing me to speak. I'm sure you're going to have a lot of other people that feel the same way I do. Please don't vote for this property. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Who else we got, Robin?
That is the only person that has raised their hand.
All right, if anybody wants to speak, please raise the hand button, please.
If I could just jump in real quick, I don't think this actually came before the town board,
Wasn't it?
John, and I also, Mr. Fahn, I believe this is also the zoning change. Was that pre-existing back when they did the original work on this job?
Say the last part again, Ed.
What was the zoning change done way back when they did all of the work? I think that was 06, like 14.
06, it was changed from a commercial zone to a, I shouldn't say that. I believe it was commercial. It may have been something different, but it was changed to an office zone. And then Celestial, the company that owns this, was successful in getting a site plan under that for the 3 pads. They built the 2 pads. This bank pad, which is allowed in the office zone, was never built. They couldn't get a tenant. And so then I think maybe 4 years ago, maybe 5, they came in with a request to rezone it back to C2, which was granted by the town board after duly noticed public hearing.
Yes, okay. Thank you.
Anyone else, Robin?
No.
I think it should be noted, just for the record, that we correct the understanding that the town board has not approved anything. They approved the rezoning back to the zoning that it was prior, but they have not approved this application or this use or a restaurant use there. They just approved the zoning. And we as a board obviously have not approved anything as of yet.
No, this is it's a public informational hearing for anybody out there listening. This is the first flush to let residents or property owners in the area know that there's an application in front of the board. It's a very recent application, so now it's going to follow a procedure and get work done during the work sessions. There will be a formal public hearing at some point in the future, if it gets to that point, again, where the public could make their input or any written comment. Anything else from the board at this point? John, anything on your end?
Not at this time.
Jim?
Nothing on my end, Mr. Chairman.
Paul, you got anything to add?
No, thank you.
Okay. Ed?
No, thank you.
All right. Do I have a motion then to close the public informational hearing for the Taco Bell on Mohegan Lake?
Moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, so it was first by Garrigan, second by Kinkart. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Next on the agenda.
Thank you, everybody.
Good night, Paul.
Take care.
Paul. Next on the agenda, we have the Yorktown Energy Storage Tier 2 Battery Storage System. This too is a public informational hearing. Locations 3901 Gomer Court in Jefferson Valley. Do I have a motion to open the public informational hearing?
Second.
First by Bach, second by Kinkart. Why is my computer doing that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. You're on, Mel.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mel Samaru with Borrego Solar Systems. With me tonight is David Kenny from Snyder & Snyder. He's standing in for Rob tonight, who had a conflict, and also Mike Conway, our project developer and electrical engineer. So, David, I'll let you take it away, and I'll share my screen so we can all look at the same thing here.
Sure. So just as a brief history, this project first came to the town approximately a year ago. It was under a different town code at the time. The town enacted a moratorium so that it could update its zoning code for this particular use. The applicants have then amended its plan so it could be in compliance with the new town code. And now they've brought this application back to the planning board. We had our first meeting on October 5th under this new application. Since that meeting, we did have a site visit with the Conservation Board and the Planning Board. And we've also had a meeting with the Architectural and Community Appearance, or the Advisory Board on Architectural and Community Appearance. And we received some comments from both the Conservation Board and the ABACA. We'll go through those later, but Mel, if for the purposes, since this is the first public information meeting, if you could please give a brief overview of the project and some of the specifics that we're proposing.
Sure. So just so everyone can orient themselves, I will show, here's the map of Yorktown. If I can hide my bar here. So here's Yorktown. The site that we're proposing, the tier 2 battery storage system, is up here in the northeastern part of Yorktown, located here at Gomer Court, and here's an aerial view of the site. So the existing site is zoned office. It is an existing auto body shop, and the landowner is leasing part of the back for some utility storage for some of the cherry picker vans that Con Ed is storing back here at the moment. So I'll go back to our presentation. And so as you can see, here's the aerial view of the site again. And the parcel itself is, as I said, zoned office. It is about 2.5 acres. And per the new zoning code that the town board and the planning board has reviewed pretty extensively, we have rearranged our site and the configuration to meet the current code as it's now written. So we are under that 15% lot coverage. Otherwise, you know, if for a bigger site it would have been 30,000 square feet, but the 15% governs here. So we're at about 0.36 acres or 15,755 square feet, and that is encompassing this area you see here in gray, and then these two other little equipment pads that we have outside of the fenced area. So there are 5 containers. That's the bigger blue rectangles you see here. And the existing access will come off of East Main Street to the north onto Gomer Court. And then we have since completed our environmental due diligence. So there was formerly a FEMA flood zone going through the site where we were reposing the batteries, and that's since been revised so our system is completely outside of that. We have coordinated with the DEC. We do have a no permit required letter from them. We have done a phase 1 on the site, so there's no environmental recs. And as I said before, we do meet the town of Yorktown bulk requirements, which are outlined here in this table, and that's per the new zoning code that was passed last month. Then here's another picture, or just the site plan with all of the call outs for exactly what's on and proposed on the site. And then last week we did meet with the ABACA, as David said, and the Conservation Board. We have yet to revise the plans just so we can, digest the Conservation Board memos, which we got this morning. They suggested that we add more trees. So did the ABACA. They would like to pretty much just see more screening all the way around the systems in such a way that it doesn't impact any of the fire department or fire chief requirements to be able to see inside the system, and then so that you can't see it from Route 6. And then the next couple of slides we have are just the letters for everyone to see and for the record from Westchester County that they have no objection to the planning board being the lead agency. The comments from the ABACA just saying that they'd like some better renderings and to provide more screening. And then the letter that we received this morning from the Conservation Board, which we met with them last week, just going through the site visit and improving the water course, the debris along the water course, and then adding trees along Route 6.
Thank you, Mel. In addition to the county planning board agreeing to the planning board being lead agency, the county planning board also stated for DML purposes that this is a matter of local concern and issued no substantive comments on the application. With that presentation, we're here before the board at the public informational hearing. Since this is the first noticed public meeting, we'd like the benefit of the board's comments as well as any comments from the public. So we'd like to turn it over now to hear if there's any members of the public that'd like to speak or ask questions on this application.
All right, so again, if any members of the public want to speak, you have to raise your hand or dial Robin and *9. I'll give you some time so we don't miss anybody.
While we're waiting, Mel, if I could just ask you, since I think your comment's well taken that we don't want to obstruct any visual access to the facility for fire and safety crews. My understanding is that these battery storage units are water cooled, as they've been explained to us in the past by yourself and Mike. And would we be concerned about any cooling putting an overburden on the water cooling systems. If we did encase those storage areas with landscaping, I mean, we would want to leave openings, I guess, and allow the breeze to come through, so to speak. Is that a concern at all?
I think if I may answer, I think the question is a balancing act. We want to appease the boards in the comments regarding the visibility of the project, but we also have to address the concerns from the fire official, which he's asked for. He wants visibility of the site. So I think the goal would be the right amount of landscaping that provides at least some visibility from the fire official, but enough screening that meets the requirements or addresses the concerns of this board.
Which we are concerned about, of course, especially on a major thoroughfare. You know, a lot of traffic comes by on Route 6. It's probably going to be close to not visible from 6N and even that Gomer Street extension, but Curry Street extension, excuse me. But we are certainly looking at safety as well, David, as you know. So, you know, I would want to have as complete a vision of not just a visual vision, but a vision of the project from a safety standpoint in terms of, you know, the energy efficiency or the cooling efficiency of those storage facilities as they operate unencumbered by anything else. And then if we screen them along the roadway and around the perimeter, as long as that doesn't affect it, you know, that would be a concern of ours. Maybe you want to address that now or later. We do have another opportunity with the public hearing as well as our future meetings.
I think our goal is we're going to receive the comments tonight, and hopefully in our next submission to this board, we'll have addressed that.
Great. Thank you.
I will chime in there for a second because we were on the site visit along with Robin and her assistant, Evan. Thank you for all those pictures, Robin. And I got to tell you, I think the location just from first flush is nice. I think there are certainly things that can be done to screen it from Route 6, and I don't think they have to be right on top of the units.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say from our site visit that this property needs a lot of TLC. All right. So I think if we go by there again in another few weeks, that someone needs to go in there and clean the stuff out of the encroachment in the back into the wetlands near the stream on Route 6. All right. There's stuff all over the place. And I'm not blaming the current applicant, but clearly the contractor there has taken certain liberties. There were millings placed. There was a dumpster there full of construction debris that was leaking onto the property that we saw with the conservation board. So to the site itself, I think a lot could be done just with some property maintenance. And I don't think anybody's going to disagree with that. We've all been out there. We've all seen what's out there. So a little bit of care on that property is going to really make it look a lot nicer. I think you've got a good team together on your end. I'm sure you could do some landscaping that's going to be appropriate, that's going to meet the fire inspector's requirements. And by the way, we're going to ask that the Department of State does a peer review on this along with the building department. And that is certainly because this is such a new code that is part of the code review. And we are also going to ask that the fire departments are trained for this type of attack along with multiple response for this. So there's going to be other fire departments, and that is also part of the state requirements. But I think the cleanup of the site will go a long way. And I think we saw that when we were out there with the members of the Conservation Board too. Robin, anybody looking to speak yet?
I'd just like to say, Mr. Chairman, your comments are well received, and we'll see if there's anything we can do. But ultimately, a new applicant on the property may have better efforts at keeping the property in a well-maintained fashion.
I agree with you, Mr. Kenny. Thank you. Anyone, Robin?
No.
Oh. Anything from the board?
Yes, I have a couple of questions. Given the proximity of the battery storage site to the stream bed that's immediately to the west what precautions are being taken in the event that there's a problem on the site to prevent and actually to contain the problem to the site and make sure that nothing runs down that slope into the stream and that then gets carried off into the lake and beyond. So I think that's something that needs to be addressed as we go forward. In addition to the things that I've seen so far, that's a major concern. And the other question I have is basically echoing what our chairman said about the current condition on that site, which is an office zone, and I don't know what the legality of the current uses are for vehicle storage, and I think that needs to be examined by people on our end, on the town side.
Those comments are well received, and we'll take a look to see if there's anything we can do in our next submission to address the comments regarding any spill or anything that can be done to better protect the water course to the rear of the property.
Thank you. Anybody else from the board? And go ahead, Bill. You're muted. We can't hear you. Robin,
Your left hand.
Pick your microphone, Bill.
No, the microphone's okay.
There you
Can
go.
hear me
Now we can hear you.
Okay. No, I just wanted to say we have to be very careful about that. And I don't know why we can't have a vault that contains it. So if there's ever an accident, nothing will run off into the stream. Simple thing. Just build it into a vault. Build a vault around it. Keep concrete walls to contain any accident that would happen.
Yeah, I could jump in there if the board will allow that.
By all means.
So having a secondary containment vault is something that that we explore on certain sites that have utility transformers that feature sort of mineral oil or other things like that. On this particular installation, there are no hazardous materials. So the only two sort of compounds on the product that can take a liquid form are the refrigerant that goes through the air conditioning units and the fire suppression units themselves. And I'm sure we'll submit the material safety data sheets with our next submission, but neither of those substances are classified as hazardous. I can pass it to Mel to talk about specifically what we'll do to make sure that those don't reach the existing water course that's there. But secondary containment or a vault is not something that we're proposing for this site based on the type of materials that are there.
Yeah, and to just add to that, I think we are requesting, we will have to go to the town engineer for a wetland permit. We had submitted last year when we first proposed this project, preliminary, wetland permit that would have been administrative, but because this is before the planning board and you are the approving authority, we are, requesting that review through the town engineer for the non-administrative permit because we are within the 100-foot wetland buffer, the stream buffer. And so I think that question will be addressed and mitigated through that process as well.
Okay.
Well, ultimately tonight, we do have further submissions to this board that will be responsive to all the comments we're receiving.
Again, this is just a public informational hearing. It's the first.
Exactly.
Part. Anyone else? Anything from you, John?
Well, I want to talk about the discussion before about what the fire board requested in terms of being able to see it. But I think we can talk about it at the next meeting rather than belabor this meeting.
Okay.
And again, our goal is not to refuse any landscaping. I think we're just trying to be respectful to both comments.
I think there's a way to do
Understood.
it. Jim, anything?
I had a question. Has the applicant done a phase 2 yet?
We haven't done a phase two because our phase one came back with no recs. There's no phase two required.
Well, my question was, are you considering doing one?
At this time, no.
All right. Do we know if there's any contaminants in the soil now that are finding their way into the water course? And if there are, will those things be exacerbated by the work you're doing?
So based on our initial phase one, there was some, they did some recon on the soils. They didn't find anything that would cause any VOCs or, anything in the soil that would be subject to a further investigation. But as for our disturbance, I think that'll also be part of the wetland permit that we'll have to go through with some of that. But we are disturbing less than 5,000 square feet with our strip footings underneath the batteries themselves and with all of the equipment pads for the electrical equipment. So we can definitely, take a look at that a little bit more and see if there's anything that's going to be, required for that kind of mitigation with the wetland permit.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Jim. We missing anything?
Not at the moment.
Okay. All right, then. Do I have a motion to close the public informational hearing for the Yorktown Energy Storage Tier 2 battery storage system?
Second.
We have a first by Kincart, a second by La Scala. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Your time.
Before we
Thank
close,
you, appreciate it.
yes, thank you very much for your help, your work. Before we close and go into the work session portion of the meeting, we still have the meeting minutes from October 5th, 2020. I know, John, you were going to take a look at a few things when you were recusing yourself.
Yeah, if the board has the patience, quickly going through, believe it or not, the first 7 pages, I didn't see anything that I remember that was not in there. On the 8th page, on the storage facility application, New York Self Storage, also known as CubeSmart, that large paragraph on page 8, we discussed, I think I brought up the possibility of banking some of the parking spaces. They need very few parking spaces, only 15 spaces for this application. I said maybe we could bank them and soften the site a little bit and cool it off a little bit by landscaping. And I know John Tegeter commented on that, and that's duly noted in the minutes. I think Fred Kelch mentioned something, and John Tegeter, perhaps you remember, I think he came right back and said that they would prefer to leave the paved areas on the site as they are, just basically for traffic circulation on the site. Am I incorrect in remembering it that way?
I don't think you're incorrect, but I'm not sure if that's exactly what he meant. I think it sounded to me as though he did not want to permanently take away the ability to have parking. So,
okay.
And I may be wrong on that, but I certainly think that it warrants looking at in terms of adding some more greenery there and keeping those as conservation spaces. I think that's what the discussion was.
Right. Exactly.
Right. So, I mean, the only difference is that they'll have to rebuild them if there ever becomes the need for them. Yeah.
So, okay, we'll leave that section as it is. And other than that, there were just a couple of, typographical errors, really. Perhaps capitalizing the word state when we're referring to New York State and town when we're referring to the town of Yorktown. Little stuff like that with punctuation, calling out the name of the steakhouse on the Americo Realty LLC application down in the Bear Mountain Triangle. I think we should call it what is now the Hudson Valley Steakhouse as opposed to Steakhouse with a lowercase s. And, you know, it's just stuff like that. Nothing of major import. So with the board's permission, I can just, you know, copy these pages and send them to Nancy. If she's so inclined, she can make those corrections.
That would be great. Any other board members have any comments? Okay, that being said, with the changes as noted and the grammatical that'll be changed, do I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes of the October 5th, 2020 meeting?
Motion.
Second.
We have first by Lascano, second by Rob. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Oh, my abstention. I wasn't at the meeting.
Yeah.
You, Aaron, do I have a motion to close the public portion of our meeting and move into the work session?
So moved.
Second.
First by Bach, second by Kinkard. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? We will move to the work session. Thank you very much, everybody, for your help. And I hope you stay for the second part of the meeting. Thank you very much.